Welcome back, bienvenue, and all that jazz. It's time to talk about some books. I am shocked as you are most likely, that February is basically already over, and it's already March 2023, which, what is time? So that means it's time for a March TBR. Did I do fantastic on my February TBR? Time will tell. That's a problem for next week, Rodger, when I have to figure out a wrap up. But doesn't mean that I'm going to not make reading plans for March. And March is kind of a month full of buddy reads. The beginning of this year has really been buddy reads, and that's been really helping me because it's been helping force me to stay social and reading, doing something that I love during this time, because I've been deep in the process of writing my thesis. I've written the first chapter out of 4, and chapters 2 and 3 are going to be part of this publication that we're working on. So it's just like, it's a whole process. And so I am very frequently mentally tired, but I love reading and I don't want to stop reading. And so I've really been like focusing on books that I think will bring me joy and just give me all of the fantasy vibes that I love, the adventure, the just whisk me away type feeling. And so hopefully my March reads will help do that for me. I am really scaling back. I went a little ambitious with my February TBR, which was a choice. I'm not sure that it paid off. But so my March TBR is much more kind of laid back, if you will. And so just the first thing that I'd like to mention is the Great Cosmere-along, the read-along reading through the entire Cosmere leading up to the release of Stormlight Archive number 5 in November 2024 is continuing. So we read Tress of the Emerald Sea in January. I have a live show discussing spoilery thoughts on that on my channel. And so up next in our Great Cosmere-along is Elantris. We are reading this in the month of March, and then in April, probably the first weekend of April, we will have a live show over on Angela's channel at Literature Science Alliance. I remember very vague things. I remember this is basically like Sanderson's take on zombies, if you will, and there's like a very explosive ending. So like I'm excited to reread it because I don't remember a whole lot. I remember this being much more kind of political and less actiony than most of his Cosmere works, and so I'm just excited to revisit Elantris. I know a lot of people kind of always talk about it as like, well, it's not as good as his other books. I remember liking it, so we'll see. Now that I've read basically everything else in the Cosmere, and not basically, I mean, I think I've read everything else in the Cosmere, so I'm excited to go back to where it all began with Elantris. And so I do have a channel up in my Discord, which the link is down below in the description if you would like to join along for the chat in the Discord. And then, like I said, the live spoilery chat for Elantris will be in April over on Angela's channel. Then, theoretically, I was supposed to read Dragons of Autumn Twilight, which is book 1 in the DragonLance DragonLance Chronicles. So I haven't done that yet, but I think I should be able to do it before March rolls around because these are incredibly short. So this is a read-along that's being hosted by Chris over at A Fictional Escapist. Book 2, Dragons of Winter Night, should be coming up for March if I manage to squeeze book 1 in, which hopefully I can. But this is just very classic fantasy adventure, kind of brain candy. I don't remember it doing much more than just being fun fantasy adventure, but I haven't read it since junior high or high school, so I don't know how well it holds up. I just remember loving Raistlin, who is this mage who's just really trying to find his way in the world and is very ambitious and kind of does things in pursuit of power. And then his adorable brother who just like loves him and supports him, Caramon, and I just remember really liking their dynamics and liking the cool chromatic dragon-ness of it all. But it definitely is more classic fantasy where we do not have as much of a focus on characters from what I remember. It's much more focused on just fun action-adventure plot. So if it's still giving me like popcorn action movie flick, then I'll be happy, but who knows, because it's been like 20 years since I've read these, and that makes me feel old as all. So enough about that. Then Elle and I started a journey last year. I think this is a first-time read for her, and it's a reread for me, and we are working our way through The Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. So we started book 1 in October, September, something fall-ish last year. And then we just didn't continue because it was end of the year, busy, whatever. And so now we are going to be continuing our reading of Keeper of the Lost Cities with book 2, Exile. And this is where we get introduced to our fantastic animal companion, which is like this unicorn Pegasus thing, which love it. And If you don't know, Keeper of the Lost Cities is a middle grade series, which I think is planned to be 10 books, and 9 books are currently available. And we follow Sophie Foster, who is an elf who is living in the human world for unknown reasons and doesn't even know she's an elf until somebody comes and finds her and whisks her back to the lost cities and kind of explains what's going on in the elven world. And there are different factions and different mysteries of like, why is she there? What is going on in the elven societies? It's just a lot of fun. So if you want whimsical middle grade fantasy, it doesn't get better than The Keeper of the Lost Cities. Then, like I said, this is the month of buddy reads. So I have officially finished The Wheel of Time, which is wild. It is a journey that I started back in 2020, maybe? I don't know. It's been like 3 years, basically. And so I was always holding off on starting the Malazan Book of the Fallen until after I finished Wheel of Time, so my excuses are gone. And I know my friend Chris from A Fictional Escapist and the author Mark Timoney, we are all planning on buddy reading this together. I think it is a reread for Mark and a first-time read for Chris and myself. And so I don't know what to expect. I have heard very mixed things about Malazan, that it's intentionally like obscure to just be confusing, but it will pay off eventually, maybe, and it can be very dense and very all the things. So I really have no idea what I'm getting myself into. I hope that I'm on the side of the people who love it, because I hear that for the people that this series works for, this is like the ultimate of the Gods Among Us trope, which is my favorite trope in all of fantasy. So if it works and has awesome, epic Gods Among Us, I would love that in my life. But also, who knows? Like, I don't know that I enjoy intentionally obscure, dense things. So we'll see. I think Chris is trying to get me to commit to the first 3 books, which we'll see. We'll see based on book 1. Like, I'm not promising. I did tell him, okay, fine, but I reserve the right to back out of that, because that is nonsense. That is a lot of pages if I hate book 1. But I don't know. For people who have read Malazan, do you think your feelings on book 1 are a good litmus test if this series will work for you or not? Or do you think that I have to like at least try book 2? Or is it one of those series that it doesn't get good until book 9? I don't know. Like, let me know, like, when did this series grab you if you are a fan of it? Or when did you tap out if you're not a fan? Let me know so I can kind of take a little survey and figure out like how much do I need to commit before I decide the series is or is not for me. Let me know. Then the last buddy read that I have planned is I am planning to read Empire of Silence by Christopher Ruocchio. This is book 1 of the Suneater series. And I will be reading this with my friend Joanna Souza. And I don't know, it should be a good time. I hear it's very sci fantasy, but it is another one of those kind of dude telling you his life story, which can be hit or miss for me. I loved it in like Empire of the Vampire. I liked it in like Interview with the Vampire, from what I vaguely remember of reading that when I was like in junior high. I was reading questionable things when I was like 12. Don't ask. But I don't know. Like, I don't know that I've heard many people pick up Empire of Silence and hate it. So that kind of bodes well, but who knows? So I'm very hopeful, and I'm just living for this buddy read thing, having friends to talk to and just distract myself in this time where my brain needs distractions. And then the last couple things that I'm planning are just books that my booktube friends have been shouting about for a while that I just want to try. And so the first of those is Engines of Empire by R.S. Ford. This, of course, has been championed by Elle from Elliot Brooks. She kind of pitches it as Final Fantasy XII meets Game of Thrones. I like Final Fantasy XII. I also really like A Song of Ice and Fire. So maybe it will be a banger for me. I really know nothing else besides that description, and that's what I'm going to go into this book hoping for, but we'll see. I have a lot of chunky books on this TBR, so send help. And then the next 2 are recommendations from my friend Angela over at Literature Science Alliance, and these are kind of, I'll pick one to kind of go along with my mood. And so the 2 books are Ruin of Kings by Jenn Lyons. This is book 1 in the Chorus of Dragons quintet. I don't know. I don't remember how many books it is. Sextet? Oh, sex. Oh. And then the other option is The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. And on one hand, I think it's like disaster by fun adventure fantasy times with the Ruin of Kings with a kind of non-traditional narrative structure. And then I hear that there's also Gods Among Us, which, hello, like, shrink instantly. It's just like, yes, Gods Among Us. And then Mask of Mirrors is like more political intrigue, where it's like this girl who's like kind of trying to pull this con on this family, not realizing that the family is actually broke or something like that. I don't really know. So I don't know. One of those will call to me and I will pick one of them to read. And then the final thing that we have to talk about on this TBR is, of course, the Magical Mug of Mysteries. So if you don't know, I, at the end of last year, went on all my socials and asked for recommendations from people. I then put them all on a spreadsheet, did a random number generator, chose 12, and those 12 are now in this mug, and so I try to pull one per month to read. I have not read the one from February, which is The Golden Key, and my excuse for that is it's not available in my library, and the ebook is like obnoxiously expensive, so I just have not been able to get my hands on it yet. So that one is still kind of floating around. Maybe I'll get to it in February, probably not, so I'll have to play catch up with that one in particular, but that's not gonna stop me from drawing another one, so whatever. So let's see what we have today, shall we? God, my fingers are too big for this tiny cup. Okay, we have one. We'll put the mug down. And our choice is, oh God, we'll see what happens. So it is Guns of the Dawn by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I guess this is just becoming the year of Tchaikovsky for me. So I tried Ogres in January, and it was fine, but I didn't love it. And that was like his kind of novella. It was much more sci-fi than I was expecting, so that's kind of on me for not properly setting my expectations for what I was even getting into. But Guns of the Dawn, I believe, is a standalone fantasy, so we'll see. And hopefully my friggin' library has this book, because like, we're saving up to move, and your boy is poor. So like, we'll see if I can get my hands on that. Hopefully I can. But yes, those are the, I think, 8 books that I hope to get to in the month of March. Hopefully I get to all of them, or will I just mood read and throw out my TBR? You never know. That is the spice of life and the roulette that you get every time I do a wrap-up, because you never know what I'll actually have ended up picking up. It's fun for you, fun for me, fun for everybody, because nobody knows what's coming. Have you read any of these books? Should I prioritize any of them over others? Please let me know. I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. And what are your reading plans in March? Are you planning to continue along with us in the Great Cosmere-along? I would just love to have some people to chat with down there. And if you would just like to leave an emoji, I guess leave the cute little like squirt gun emoji for Guns of the Dawn, and send warm, positive thoughts that I can find it in my friggin' library. But the library does not seem to like Adrian Tchaikovsky, which is rude. Rude. But that will do it for today's video. Please like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already for more bookish shenanigans like this from moi. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!